Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. It's National Happiness Day, Tony. What are you happy about?
I'm Tony Kornheiser, that I'm not a fan of a team that convened a players-only meeting after the first game of the season.
Wow. I mean, I mean, how do you have a great outlook on the season if that's night one? Players only. Coach, we could use some space. Take a walk. How about that?
It's your account. It's your team.
Yeah.
Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, Kristaps Porzingis looks good. The Bills need to look good. And Booger McFarland always looks good and will join us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with the NBA debut of Victor Wembanyama, the 19-year-old from France who was the #1 overall pick in the draft. At 7'5", Wembanyama is touted as having more varied skills than anyone ever of that size. He played 23 minutes last night, scored 15 points, had 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and a block for the Spurs. Wilbon, did you see what you thought you'd see from Wembanyama?
Not particularly, Tony, but I wasn't looking for anything specific. I just want to consume it. I just want to see what he's got against the best players in the world in games that count. That's all. I wasn't expecting any particular numbers out of him. I like his demeanor, Tony, when it comes to winning and wanting to win and being disconsolate after the game, we're told from people who were there in front of him, that he didn't win the game. And it's a regular season game 1 of 82, and he's got 1 million games to go in his life and even 81 more to go this year. I don't think there's playoffs in his immediate future, but okay. But, Tony, you see the skill set. You see the block shot. He steps out on Kyrie Irving. And, Tony, there was a stat out there, and it's sort of advanced, and I hate these advanced metrics, but this one is legit, where when he was on the floor, the shots came from an average of 17 feet from the basket. And when he was off the floor, they came from an average of 14 feet. So people are bolder, and they will get closer to the basket without Wembanyama flying out there,
right?
You know, like some figure they've never seen. So I think all of that goes into an initial impression. I just like the fact that he's not happy with a loss, that he's angry. The great ones hate to lose. Good place to start for him.
Yeah, so my feeling is I don't want to be a killjoy as everybody rushes to canonize this kid, and I do not want to be put in a box as someone who doesn't think he's going to be great. That would be untrue. It would be unfair, and it would be a straw dog. But he had 15 points and 5 fouls, and his team lost at home. He's 19 years old. He has never played against players this big and this strong before. There are going to be a lot of nights where he's not as good as the guy opposite him in the first year or so. There's going to be 1 night, 2 nights, 10 nights, something like that. And my feeling about this is people ought to just hold on a second. This is a brand new world for this guy. And I'm going to say this other thing too, Mike. He's not Wilt Chamberlain. He's not Kareem.
No.
When they joined the NBA, they were older, they were stronger, and they had played against better people. So, you know, he may be everything you think. He may be revolutionary. He was not last night. Not last
Tony,
night. So,
agree with you. And let me add one more person. A person he could be compared to in the same jersey. David Robinson, who I think in his debut had 23 and 17, David Robinson, who was also like 23 years old too, and he mentioned 19.
Older.
So, yes, physical maturity, but the emotional maturity, this kid is out there. But people need to just chill. Just let the kid play. Let him get in a few games before we announce that he's the equal of Wilt or anybody like that. Just
as Mick Jagger used to say, could you all just cool out? All right, Wilbon, you did Countdown last night. You watched all the games. There were 24 NBA teams in action. You were immersed in them like a hot tub. Who else and what else stood out to you?
Tony, let me start with a game I was at for the tip and then wasn't there for that much longer, was the Celtics at the Knicks. Tony Porzingis. And this is why the Celtics make that trade. And as you and I know, we've seen that, and we've seen him miss 60 games. So there's that. It's game 1. But Tony, if he can play like that, I don't know if I counted 4 block shots on my own. I didn't see this stat sheet later. But if he can defend like that and hit shots, yes, that changes. If Porzingis can be your 4th best guy on the floor, no one has a 4th best player as talented as a 7'3" guy, as Porzingis specifically is. So he was one of them, Tone. And that's sort of on the high end. You mentioned Wembanyama, and that was notable. I'm going to go to a place that's just making me nervous already. The Chicago Bulls lose a home game. They get thumped by the Thunder. And I told you Oklahoma City is going to be real good this year now. All right? SGA is tremendous. But, Tony, the Bulls have to have a players-only meeting. They couldn't come into the season apparently ready. Their franchise committed to giving one extension after another. They kept their top 7 guys, and they got to have a players-only meeting because they get thumped at home by 20 by a team where guys aren't old enough to get a driver's license yet in OKC. Woo, notable.
Time to talk football with our great friend, ESPN, NFL, and college football analyst, Booger McFarland. Let's start with this. The 49ers, they have lost 2 straight games now. They have had trouble rushing the passer. They had no sacks against the Vikings, none whatsoever. You played defensive line. Is this a problem that's fixable?
Yeah, Tony, I think the problem can be fixed. First, you got to identify the problem. And I think there's a problem that's twofold. Number one, they have a new defensive coordinator, Steve Wilks. And Steve Wilks isn't used to running their system. They didn't change their system. They left the system in place that was vacated by now Houston Texans head coach DeMeco Ryans. So there's a level of familiarity that he has to get used to how they play and how they rush. Everybody's referencing the play in the Minnesota game that Addison scored on. It was a blitz. It was like a 2nd and 3rd and long, and Steve called a blitz, and Addison broke one tackle and they scored a touchdown. And Nick Bosa said something like, yeah, we normally don't blitz in that situation. Well, the reason he's blitzing is because their one-on-one rush isn't winning right now. And that's problem number 2. So you have a coordinator trying to familiarize himself with the new system, and you have guys like Nick Bosa, Javon Hargrave, Eric Armstead. Those guys aren't rushing very well right now. Usually sacks come in bunches, so hopefully this pass rush can kind of get tuned up here lately because they rely on that a lot, playing a lot of zone coverage behind those guys.
Booger, I love talking about defense instead of just quarterback. So let's stay with defense and talk about Myles Garrett, who had 2 strip sacks, a blocked field goal, a pass defense, and 9 total tackles against the Colts. You've seen all kinds of athleticism in your career as a player and an analyst, even along the defensive line. Can you tell us what you saw from Myles Garrett, and particularly if you get to it, that blocked field goal?
Yeah, well, Mike, think about this. And I know you cover basketball. You do a great job on Countdown. We've seen guys in the NBA that have 40, 42, 44-inch verticals. And you know how high they can jump. Now, imagine Myles Garrett, 6'4", 270. He had a 41-inch vertical leap at the NFL Combine. So when you saw him in that gap blocking the field goal, he literally jumped over the offensive lineman because if he would have touched them, that would have been a penalty. So he jumped over them in that gap and blocked the field goal, and that's just God-given ability. He was given that by the good Lord the day he came out of his mother's womb, and that 41-inch vert that he displayed was unreal. I don't know if me, you, and Tony, if our vertical together can get to 41 inches right now.
No, not ours anymore. Is he the most athletic guy? Can you remember a more athletic guy at that position in all your time playing and watching football, Booger?
No, I can't, Mike. Like, he's the most, to be 275 and 6'4" and still do that. Like, you've seen guys smaller that are faster. You've seen guys smaller that maybe can jump higher. But he's 6'4" and 272. He ran 4.6 in the 40, and he vertical jumped 41. That is a freakazoid.
Let's move to some college football and Heisman candidates. A couple of the leading quarterbacks had pretty tough weeks. But Marvin Harrison Jr. posted enormous numbers in Ohio State's win over Penn State. You played with his dad. How good is Jr.?
I think Jr. is going to wind up being better than his dad, and his dad's a Hall of Fame receiver. So that should tell you everything. Like, they're built differently. Like, Marv was quiet. Marv was 6'1", about 185 pounds, Marvin Harrison Sr. Jr. is 6'3". He's 210. He can run routes just like his dad. He's got the physicality to go up and body you, and he's probably going to run 4.4, 4.5 at the combine. So he's got the total package. And here's the thing that I love the most, Mike. You know, sometimes there's that old saying that hard work beats talent when talent don't work hard. Now, when you combine them both, this is what you get, because he's one of the hardest workers, everybody tells me that they've ever been around. He's humble. He understands that everything that he hasn't been given to him. He's worked hard for it. So I can't wait to see where he goes. And Mel Kiper said this may be the highest graded receiver he's ever had since one Calvin Johnson.
Wow.
You don't want to hear what I'm going to say because Wilbon wants the Bears to draft him with the first pick.
Yeah, buddy. Yes,
he
I
has said
do.
that to me. Draft him with
Yes,
the first
I
pick.
do.
We'll get you out of here on this. Michigan is off this week. They're at the center of the biggest story in college football right now. If this sort of sign stealing is so bad, Booger, why do you think other coaches have not condemned Jim Harbaugh for this?
Because they're all doing it. There's an old saying, you better sweep around your own front door before you try to sweep around mine. And I think a lot of guys are saying, you know what, I better not say anything because if I say something, they're going to go back and look at that surveillance video and may find other guys in my program that are doing it. I talked to one guy who was a college coach, and he simply said this. This has been going on forever. As a matter of fact, they used to go to the spring game. When it's a very low-key environment, they will go to the spring game and video the signals in the spring and keep a Rolodex for the fall. So this has been going on for a long time. I think that's why Michigan fans are agitated. Now, with all that being said, did they break a rule? Yes. Is the NCAA on their campus right now investigating them? Yes. What's going to come of this? I don't know, but the fact that they are on campus right now investigating them tells me that the NCAA is doing something that they don't normally do. They're moving swiftly, and they're taking it seriously.
Booger, thanks so much as always. Pleasure.
Thanks, Booger.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Anytime. Y'all have a good one, guys.
Let's take one last break. Still to come. Could Juan Soto end up on the Yankees? Sure.
Oh.
Why not?
Really? Is
Why
that
not?
what we're starting the hot stove with? That's not even hot stove time yet. Dusty Baker says, I'm done. I'm done. Dusty.
So that's a great answer by Booger, that because they're doing it too. Of course they're. Happy time, people. Happy 74th birthday, Mike Hargrove. A career .290 hitter. Hargrove was Rookie of the Year in 1974 as a first baseman for the Texas Rangers when he hit .323. Hargrove made the All-Star team in 1975. In all, he played 12 years, mostly with Texas and Cleveland. But he was best known for his interminable fiddling around the plate before stepping in for the pitch. Indeed, Hargrove was nicknamed the human rain delay. It's the behavior of hitters like Hargrove and Nomar Garciaparra that helped make the pitch clock necessary. Hargrove later managed Cleveland to 2 World Series appearances. But I ask you, Wilbon, were the recent playoffs ruined by the pitch clock? Was the drama short-circuited by the pitch clock? Or is faster baseball better baseball?
Yes, faster baseball is better baseball. You don't need all that. Nomar was more dramatic than Hargrove to me, Tony. I mean, Nomar, who I love as a player, it was like fascinating to watch, particularly if you were at the game and Nomar was at bat. You just go, oh my God, what is he doing?
Not so happy anniversary, James Harrison, on this day 15 years ago. With the Steelers clinging to a 2-point lead over the Giants in the fourth quarter, the great Steelers pass rusher stepped in as an emergency long snapper, promptly launched a snap over Mitch Berger's head out of the back of the end zone. The safety tied the game for New York, which ended up winning 21-14. But Harrison prevailed in that season, becoming Defensive Player of the Year. And in the Super Bowl, Harrison made the greatest play I've ever seen in a Super Bowl. Harrison intercepted a Kurt Warner pass at the end zone, ran it back 100 yards for a touchdown. There were 18 seconds left in the first half when Harrison caught the ball. He used all 18 getting to the other end zone. Gave the Steelers a 17-7 lead. They won the game 27-23.
Man, my man Fitz almost caught him at the goal line. Greatest play, Tony, I too think, in Super Bowl history.
Really great. Happy trails, Dusty Baker. Baker, a baseball lifer, has retired as manager of the Houston Astros. In all, he managed 26 years, with stops at the Giants, Cubs, Reds, Nationals, and Astros, where he won the World Series last year. Before that, he played 19 years in the majors as an outfielder with the Braves, Dodgers, Giants, and A's. Baker was a 2-time All-Star, 2-time Silver Slugger, 1-time Gold Glove. His 162-game average was .278, 19 home runs, 80 RBI. He is 74 years old. He has had a complete career, an enviable career. And when he's eligible 3 years from now, he will be elected to the Hall of Fame as a manager.
Amen, Tony. There's simply no arguing that. And by the way, Dusty was with all those teams. I know he just won finally with Houston. He had terrific teams. They were always in the hunt, or most often. He had teams that were right there. And he needed a little bit of luck and didn't get it. I've been cheering for the Astros for the last 2 years for one reason. Dusty Baker. Now, I'm done with the Astros. I'm finished.
No, that's great.
If
They'll be
Dusty's
happy to
finished
know
with
you're
them,
done with them now.
I'm finished
They'll
with
be
them
happy.
too. Yeah.
Big finish, here we go. Rick Carlisle and the Pacers have agreed to a multi-year contract extension. Does that make sense?
Makes exact sense. I think the Pacers are going to rise now, largely because of Rick Carlisle. SNY.com reports the Yankees have talked to the Padres about a trade for Juan Soto. Uh-oh. Is that a big deal?
Yeah, well, the Yankees have a history of slugging outfielders, don't they? Starting with
They
Root.
do.
Bradley Beal and Devin Booker both out for tonight's game at the Lakers. Can they win without them?
No, they might not have been able to win with them. Lakers coming off a loss. No. The NHL suspended Ottawa Senators center Shane Pinto 41 games for breaking the league's sports wagering rules. Your thoughts?
41 is a lot, but the rules are probably pretty clear. There is no evidence to the moment that any of those bets were on NHL games. Last one, Sixers and Bucks tonight. What do you expect?
Well, I expect no James Harden because apparently the security folks at the airport in Philly said, no, you're not taking this flight. You're not going to be on. You're going to be back practicing. So no Harden, and the Sixers, no chance of beating Milwaukee.
We're out of time. We will try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the PTI podcast on the ESPN app or Apple Podcasts. Now, here's SportsCenter.
All right, Wilbon, what's your reaction to the Bulls players-only meeting?
Seriously? Seriously. One game in, and you're having a players-only meeting. That's my reaction. Tony, last night I'm watching this. I mean, DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Vooch. These are guys who make big salaries. They've been all-stars, each one of them. 3 guys who've been all-stars on your team. You keep Ayo, you keep Kobe White. You really go out there and say, our 7 guys, we're going to hold on to you. We think we can win. They were the best defensive team in the NBA last year from January 1 to the end of the season. So they think they've got something, even without, Ball being injured again. They think they got something. And for one night, they have nothing. And the coach walks in and they're already talking amongst each other. And Billy Donovan, who I think is a terrific coach, Billy Donovan says, do you need some space? Do I need to leave the room? And they say, yeah, leave. What are you doing? You can't start the season. You can't start the season collectively together. Tony, what are you supposed to think about this? What was your reaction when you read this?
Oh, no. This is your account. My reaction doesn't matter.
I just told you mine.
The Bulls are your account. Here's what I would say. You just spent weeks in training camp. You were together in training camp. You didn't get this worked out in training camp so that the first game, you have to reset the whole deal? I mean, my only feeling would be that I'm happy it was at the first game because by the 10th game, they could set the all-time record for players-only meetings. They could by the 10th.
Tony, it's sad. Just down the street, 90 miles, there's Milwaukee gearing up to try and win another championship. And here in their shadow is the Chicago Bulls franchise, a team that the franchise is still a great brand. People care about it. People care about it locally, nationally, internationally. And you got some players on that team that you think ought to be at least competitive with anybody in the East. And they have to have a players-only meeting because they lose by 20. They lose by 20 to an Oklahoma City team that has people probably an average age of 18 on that team. So, man, this is not the start anybody in Chicago was looking for. I got to stop talking about this. That's it. We're done. Back to you.